He drives a friend to the airport. He's coming home. He stops at a 7-Eleven. There's a homeless guy outside panhandling. He gives the guy 50 cents, drives away. The cops pull him over when he hits the highway, Virginia Beach cops, and say, you know, we saw you give that guy money, and he's known to be a drug dealer, and therefore we're going to search you. And the cop says, your car smells like weed. Now, there's no way this guy's got weed in his car, right? And he's got his phone in his pocket. He put his wallet on the dashboard. And so, the cop runs his card, his driver's license, comes back, says, where's your insurance? He says, I just got my insurance renewed yesterday. I don't have the card. I didn't print it out at the office. I should have, but I can show you on my phone. Right? A lot of us have an app for our insurance. You know, Geico offers it, Progressive offers it, you know, everybody offers it. So he's like, I can show you on my phone, but my phone is in my pocket. He's afraid to reach into his pocket because there's a cop with a gun on him. So the cop says, get out of your car. And then so the cop tells him to get out of the car and put his hands on his head, which he does. I'm now quoting from, how do you say it again, Sean? Hermione Danger. So now the cop wants him to get out of the car and put his hands on his head, which he does with his back turned to the officer, per the officer. So the cop tells him to pull a phone out of his pocket. He tells him to do this while pointing his gun at his back. So now my man is freaking out. He is shook. He says, officer, I don't feel comfortable reaching in my pocket with you pointing your gun at me. My phone is black. You can get my wallet out of my pocket. He's so scared he accidentally says wallet instead of phone. So, Hermione writes, so Officer Spaz-a-Lot starts screaming at him because of his tongue twist. He says, you're now saying, you said phone, now you're saying wallet. Which one is it? Like he didn't see the boyfriend's whole wallet on the dashboard when he went to get his license in the first place. So my baby starts crying, y'all. 31-year-old man straight bawling because he's terrified that if he reaches for his pocket, he's going to get shot. And the cop keeps yelling at him to just do it, never lowering his damn gun. He's yelling, what are you crying for? Are you guilty of something? And it probably would have been a long cycle of more yelling and more crying if more cop cars and the sheriff's car didn't pull up behind him. So 3 other cops come up, and the sheriff. There's a woman cop with her male partner, a third cop who came in his own squad car, and the sheriff, who is the only person in the scene with any sense of duty for his job. And part of it's cut off again. He doesn't reach himself, and so, you know, so a cop takes his phone out of his pocket for him and hands it to the original douche cop. When the cop who got the phone hands it off, the original cop has the nerve to say, I wasn't pointing my gun at him, I had my taser out. He says to them, officer, it was a gun. I know what an issued taser looks like because it looks like, you know, insert description here. When the sheriff confirmed he was right, he went, yeah, that officer had his gun on me. Officer, I'm not going to argue with you about it. So at this point, I've been blowing up his phone because I told you all he left the house at 10:30 for a 40-minute drive, and it's now 2 a.m. The whole time he'd been begging the officer to just let him call me and tell me where he was and what was going on. He even asked if he could call me if he unlocked his phone. Finally, after everyone ignored him, the sheriff let him use his phone to text me. I screwed up because I kept calling him, so he went to text me. I went, wait, he's calling me. And the original officer yanked his phone and threw it to the dashboard of the squad car. So the 4 officers go to the original officer's car and have a kiki while waiting on a damn canine unit to come search my boyfriend's drugless car. They also breathalyzed him because giving homeless men change obviously means you're drunk. Cops leave him sitting on the side of the road cuffed. Only the sheriff would sit with him. The sheriff says, I can understand why you're so afraid. You're a young black man, and I'm sure you're not a bad kid. You're a good guy. Yeah, dude, tell that to your effing friends. So finally, the canine unit gets there. They start going through his car, hurling stuff out of the car, throwing things everywhere. Big-ass Fido taking up all that little-ass Chevy Cruze trying to come up with some treats. Nothing. They don't find a damn thing. They all sat there for over an hour waiting on Kojo to get there and bust this black man's business wide open, they thought. On a third of his possessions, they literally throw his whole cooler from the trunk somewhere and he can't even find it. They uncuff him, give him his license, blah, blah, no apologies, no apology. Just left the man with a dirty car and sore wrists. They only even loosened his cuffs a little bit after the sheriff got there. The sheriff, though, for his credit, gave my man his info, told him that if they were in his jurisdiction, that he wouldn't have done anything wrong and to call him. So finally he was able to call me. At this point all I got was a frantic, jumbled, I got pulled over and they're searching my car text. So I had literally gotten in my car to search precincts after an hour had gone by and I hadn't heard anything. He called me before I made it to the Chesapeake City jail. And, you know, the story goes on from there. He said he'd never been more terrified in his life, and this is a man whose car has been shot at before. He said he just knew that when that officer's gun was pointed at his back, he was going to die. And I am so mad. It's that mad you get when you're powerless. There was literally nothing any of us could have done. And that, by the way, that sense of powerlessness is the source of most rage. And, you know, at every level. I mean, I think back on my own life, you know, the times when, you know, I'm dealing with a bureaucrat or I'm dealing with a business partner who you know, won't give me information and I'm feeling powerless. And that produces rage, right? It's just a normal, this is a normal response. So have you, you know, if you're black, have you had these kind of interactions that you would like to share with people? Give us a shout, 202-808-9925. In St. Louis, Missouri. Hey, Dave, thanks for listening to Sirius XM. What's up?
Yeah, hey, the account that you just gave, the interaction between the citizen and the police officer, is there any dash cam video that would corroborate any of this, or do they not have? Well,
because there was never an arrest, the only way that you could get dash cam would be if they hired a lawyer. If the lawyer sued the police department, and then in discovery, the police department had to provide that dash cam video. And I'm not sure that they could successfully sue a police department over this because everything that the police did was lawful. It's not illegal for a cop to point a gun at you. It's not illegal for them to bring canine units in. And, I mean, the most that this guy could claim was that he was harassed because he was black, and then the burden of proof falls to him. And that's a huge lift. You know, black people, by and large in this country, have a really, really hard time proving that. And the courts, and the Supreme Court just did this again a few weeks ago, defer to the police in ways that they don't defer to anybody else, Dave.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, that guy, he's just kind of just stuck out there in the wind.
Yeah, and I'm sure that this is the kind of story that happens. I mean, you know, I can't say I'm certain, but I would believe that this is the kind of story that not just happens every day in America, probably happens dozens of times a day in America. But you know, let's hear from other people too. Dave, thanks for the call. Steve in Key West, Florida. Hey, Steve, you wanted to talk about mistreatment by the police?
Wow, thanks for letting me on, Tom.
Sure.
I'm a huge fan of your show. And made my head so big once I called in before it's by telling me I was a genius. We talked about peonage once.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, you know, I mean, where do I begin? I drive a nice car. I've got a very good job, you know, BMWs and Porsches. And last time I got pulled over, I did a U-turn in front of a sitting police officer. This was in the neighboring city of Norfolk. And the woman turned on her lights and accused me of drinking. I was on a blind date. I didn't have a drink. I only had one beer probably at dinner. But because I wasn't very familiar with the law, I refused to take the breathalyzer test thinking it was going to be rigged. And I had to go downtown to jail, and they booked me in. The lady cop, you would not believe what she said. She said she was following me for 2 miles, and my car was swerving all over the road. This is a high-performance Porsche. You cannot do that without really turning the wheel. You can go 25 miles an hour in a straight line pretty easy.
So do you think she stopped you for driving a Porsche while black?
Absolutely. I made a U-turn in front of her while she was sitting on the side of the road. As soon as I straightened the car up, the lights went on.
Well, did she stop you for making an illegal U-turn?
Oh, no, it wasn't illegal. I made sure of that because I said, I told my date, look, there's Norfolk Finest.
So it was a legal U-turn?
Oh, yeah. It's in a section of Norfolk people we call Ocean View.
Yeah, Steve, your phone is going in and out. It sounds almost like you've got your thumb over the microphone. I don't know if...
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's a somewhat seedy area. It can be seedy in certain parts. That's the reason why.
Yeah.
She thought I was being suspicious.
Yeah.
I got pulled over also, and again, for a ticket. Cop is writing me a ticket. another car rides by. These are two officers in a marked police car. How you doing? I hear I'm getting a ticket. I'm not doing too good. So I'm like, well, I'm doing okay. How about you?
Right.
You getting smart with me, boy? You know I'll put you in the back of this car and rearrange your face? That's
Seriously?
what he says to me.
He literally said those words.
I swear to God, and I'm a religious man. So the cop that was giving me the ticket, the older cop, he says, you're not going to do nothing of the such. You're going to get your ass out of here. And the guy drives off.
So one cop defended you from another cop? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yes.
Wow.
I was surprised.
Yeah.
Here, I was sitting in a car in front of a nightclub. Actually, this happened in San Antonio, Texas. But I didn't realize there were 4 undercover cops sitting right next to me in a car. As soon as we got eye contact, the guy in the driver's side, he gets out of the car, and starts saying, what are you doing here? Well, I'm sitting in front of this nightclub because I'm not familiar with it, and I wanted to see who goes in and out. Maybe it could be the wrong kind of bar for me, so I wanted to figure it out.
Right.
Well, you got your driver's license, so I reached over. Of course, it was a rental car, and for my registration that was in the glove box. This guy snatches a 9mm out, put it to my daggone head faster than you can count to 3. Well, count to 1.
Right.
And that's when I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, he's been practicing that quick draw since he was 8 years old.
Probably. I didn't tell you to reach for nothing. So I'm like, look, dude, you don't have to do this right here. This is not necessary. So I looked over, and these are 3, I'm sorry, I'm right near your face. Three cops, white. 1 cop is a black female. She is the only one in the back seat actually laughing at me, being hysterically scared.
Steve, I got to move along, but we're hitting a break here. But thank you for sharing your story with us. This is tough stuff. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll be right back. Stick around. It's 48 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
I'll tell it quickly, Tom. The lady just hit you on one. I've had this happen. I'm 64. I've had this happen to me at least 12 or 13 times. The one time where the lady was talking about protecting someone, I was actually with who is still a good friend of mine outside of Phoenix City, Alabama, and we were headed to his wedding. A cop stopped me, and had it not been for a white man being in the car, I'd probably be dead. Because he put the gun to my head, and I was driving a Datsun 240Z. He wanted all kind of information from me. The white guy, who's Jim Torres, still a good friend of mine, woke up, looked at him, started cussing and fussing. We looked, there's a cop on each side of us with guns drawn. But they put the guns away and let him talk us out of it, and then led us on to the house that we were looking for.
Wow.
The first time I ever got stopped by the police was outside of my permanent duty station, I was on combat crew, 1974, headed to Tucson, Arizona. Stopped to look at some cactus at sunrise because I'd never seen cactus before. The Arizona trooper stops me, empties out my brand new Vega all on the side of the road, telling me I got dope and all of this stuff. Get ready to tow my car. The tow truck driver comes. He said, he looks through my stuff. He says, this guy's headed to Titan Missiles. He's a combat crew member. They literally put all my stuff back in my car and let me go because I had a top secret security clearance and I was a BMAT, a Titan II missiles.
Wow.
And that's when I found out for that next 4 years I was in the military. Anytime a cop stopped me, the first thing I did was hand him my military driver's license, and I used to kid with them. I'm government property, so you can't treat me like any old N.
Yeah.
That saved me for 4 years, but I'm telling you, my last time getting stopped was about a year and a half ago by ICE. Driving across country from Tucson, Arizona, about 100 miles on this side of the Texas-New Mexico border. ICE stops me and tells me that the dog had a hit on her left rear side tire of my car. I was literally there for 2.5 hours after they emptied out all my...
Wait a minute, they said that they thought you had an illegal immigrant hidden in your left rear tire?
No, they said the dog had a hit on the left rear tire on my car, like it was dope inside the tire.
Oh, I see.
And let me tell you this, so how weird it was. those tires actually had just been put on about 10 hours before that.
So they were brand new tires.
Brand new tires. And so, and the receipt for the tires happened to be right there in my glove compartment with the rest of the stuff because I just got them put on, headed across country.
Right.
So my thing to you is, it's only gotten worse to me because back when I first started happening, at least if you had some kind of military connection or something like that, they let you go. Now they shoot to kill.
Yeah. My sense of this is that it has to have gotten a lot worse since Donald Trump became president and gave that speech to the cops where he said, don't even bother to put your hand on their heads, you know, rough them up before you put them in the police car. That was like, you know, let's encourage police brutality. This is the kind of stuff that you see in authoritarian states. This is not the United States of America. And yes, you know, we have a long history of doing this kind of thing, but, you know, I thought we were climbing out of it. It seems to me like we're backsliding. Otis, thank you for sharing your story.
Let me finish with this, Tom, real quick. If you notice, the political correctness is gone.
Hey, Dee, what's up?
Hi, I just wanted to say I was stopped by, let's see, I forgot something in my car. Issaquah reached over the driver's seat into the passenger seat. When I stood up, I was surrounded by 3 police officers with their guns pointed to my temple, my forehead, and the back of my head.
My God.
The police station is across the street. It's like a combination city hall police station. And they held it there for maybe a minute or two. In my mind, I was thinking, I'm going to have to run. And why are you running? Because I want to live. And I mean, just so many things went through my head, but then it just became blank. I started waiting to die.
Yeah.
Then they holstered their weapons and said, have a nice day, and left.
Have a nice day after it traumatized you.
Oh, and then I figured it's I don't know why they approached me. They didn't say. Then I was going through customs coming in from abroad, and, you know, you have to report how much cash you're bringing in. Mm-hmm. And I was stopped by sorry, I'm a little nervous. Basically, they were arguing about taking my money as I was going through customs, and then I had to spread, and my child was with me, and I told her to look away as they were fingering me, inspecting everything.
Really? Wait a minute. You only have to declare money if you have over $10,000. Did you tell them that you had over $10,000, or were they saying that you were smuggling money? What, in your body cavities?
I had over $10,000. I was doing business, and I carried a lot of cash. And, you know, you have to fill out that receipt.
Sure, yeah, I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
And, you know, and as you're going through customs, you see people with blocks of cash.
Sure.
You know, they brought in the dogs. They inspected my luggage and everything. Valid. I don't know. I called them, and I felt like I was raped. And then I called called them, and they said basically you have no rights. That's in between. There's no country. Right. I mean, there are so many other instances. I forgot my cell phone, and my passenger saw someone being choked in the car next to me, and I flagged down the police officer because I honked at the car for that man to stop. This woman was it was terrible. Her head was jerking back and forth. It was fear, and he drove behind this Starbucks, which was closed, and I flagged down the police to bring it to his attention. And then he wanted to know, why am I here? Let me see your license. I mean, it was just like, oh, forget that woman. If she dies, I have to protect myself and my passenger. So,
incredible.
Then he let me go, and I don't know what happened to the woman. And I realized there's more stories, but I just.
Yeah. Dee, thank you. Thank you for sharing your stories with us. Go. Hey, Greg, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, Tom? It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you. Greg, we have about a minute and a half, by the way.
I want to start with that I'm a retired corrections officer as a captain of the Department of Corrections. Many times I've been stopped, but the one I wanted to share was when I was pulled over with a friend of mine who was also an officer by sheriff's officers and Rental Police. Long story short, they made us get out of the vehicle. Well, actually, before I got out of the vehicle, they all shot the shotguns. The weapons pouring and yelling at us. We got out, gave me the pat down. One of the officers said, hey, I know that guy. That's not who we're looking for. He's an officer. The sergeant said he didn't care. we're going to do by the book. With that being said, after everything was over and done with, I asked the officer, why did you stop us to begin with? They were looking for an individual who apparently looked like my friend, but wasn't, obviously. And at the end of it all, he says to me, well, you know, this guy is a black guy, and he lives in Rio Rancho. Do you know him? And I explained to the officer, of course, that although I am black and I do live in Rio Rancho, I don't know all people in Rio Rancho who are black.
Wow. It's like April Ryan, you know, Donald Trump asking April Ryan if she'd talk to the Black Caucus for him.
Exactly, you know. So, and I'm not disparaging on officers because, as I said, my bad experiences in law enforcement, go figure.
Yeah.
But it's just disheartening to see the things that are going on. And then I do carry a concealed weapon now that I'm retired, so I'm dreading the day I get pulled over now, and I'm armed.
Yeah, and you end up like, what was his name?
Steele, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's grim. Greg, thank you for sharing your story. I hope a lot of white people are listening to these stories. These are important stories. Greg, thank you so much. We will be back. We're going to check in with Talk Media News here, get the news at the top of the hour. We're going to have a brief conversation with Michael Massing about his new essay, and then we're going to continue with this conversation, so stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We'll be back right after this. Stick around. And welcome back. Let's see here. James in Wichita, Kansas. Hey, James, thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. You have a story?
Yeah, I'm not going to tell all the stories because there's just too many to tell, but when I was like about 8 years old, you know, the cops were supposed to be these great guys and everything, and my dad, he had a tow truck that he used to, you know, go around making his money with his tow truck.
Uh-huh.
Well, this cop was on our street. It was right there in Berkeley, California on San Pablo and Cowper Street. And I came around on my bike. I'm like, you like your keys? Yeah.
I'm sorry, James, your phone just went flaky. Say that again.
I said, right when I came around the corner, I said, your keys are locked in your car? Because I seen him at his window. He said, yeah. So I said, okay. So I ran back there, get my dad. I said, my dad's going to help you, don't worry. So I got my dad. My dad came out, popped his door with the Slim Jim, right?
Right.
And as soon as he opened the door, my dad opened the door, he snatched the Slim Jim from my dad. Where'd you get this from? And since that day, Tom, it has been downhill with the police ever since. And being 6'2", black, and 270, it's a bad combination. And, you know, I don't agree with you politically in a lot of different ways. But in this story right here, boy, you got me on this one. Because, it happens way too often to us. And even I hear people calling your show, and they don't even realize it. I heard the guy, the NRA, when NRA was doing their show, and this guy named Mike, he said he was an ex-cop. He said his own self, they got this rapper-looking dude speaking for the NRA. What does that mean?
Right.
And then on top of that, Noir, which is his name, he's an attorney.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. A lot of people don't even know what they're even saying when they even sit there and say it because they say it so much. They grew up like that.
Yep.
And when you grow up like that, you're not really changing. You're just not saying it maybe as much or maybe in the same way, but you're still saying it. And I think that's the worst part about it because you think you're being the greatest progressive ever, and you're still saying dumb stuff.
Yep.
You know? So that's my story.
Yeah. Well, James, it's a good one. Thank you for calling, and thank you for sharing that story with us. I appreciate it. Greg in Devil's Lake, North Dakota. Hey, Greg, you wanted to talk about profiling against Native Americans?
Yeah. Tom?
We have just 1 minute here, Greg. Sorry.
Oh, shit. I'll try to make it quick.
Okay. Greg, we can't use language like that on the air. Please don't say that again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I got a story. It's kind of a funny ending. My father was a lawyer. We're Indians. And the police arrested this Indian cowboy. I mean, he was a real cowboy. He used to ride rodeos. Everyone on the res knew who he was. And he told me one time he was leaving town, and the cop came along, picked him up for drunken intoxication. And he told him, hey, I broke both legs, hips, arms. This is the way I walk. I can't. The cop wouldn't listen to him, and so he take him to jail. It's about a mile away, and kept pleading his case. No, no, no. He said he got a block away. And he said, well, I did get a phone call to call my lawyer. He said, yeah. What's your lawyer's name? He told him my dad's name, and the cop pulled over, stopped the car, and let him out right there.
Because?
Because my dad's reputation, because he was an Indian lawyer.
Okay, so
he defended a lot of Indian clients.
So it took invoking the name of a lawyer to get some respect from a cop. Greg, thank you for the call. Ed in St. Louis, Missouri, you wanted to get back to our topic from the previous hour about the police mistreatment of people of color. Ed, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
You're on the air.
Yeah. First off, I'd like to make a statement about white privilege, and that is that anybody that has any doubts about it, keep in mind that a person could be considered a well-rounded intellectual without having any even perfunctory knowledge of indigenous people or people of color. So
yeah,
it gives you
well,
an
in fact,
idea.
that was, until I'd say 30, 40 years ago, that was the norm in this country, if you're talking about white people.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well, not even no knowledge, actually wrong knowledge, right? The idea that the cowboys and the soldiers pushing west were noble people, and, you know, the whole idea of American exceptionalism and the happy slave. I mean, all these things are actually, they were actually taught in school.
The Indians were the ones that started scalping and all
that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Back to you, Ed.
But anyway, I want to give an example of police brutality or misuse of force or whatever. I'm 66 years old, and I can go back to when I was 6 years old. That'd be 1958. And a gentleman, and just to give him a shout out, even though he's passed, his name was Thomas. He used to get up in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, take me and my brother fishing on a regular basis. And he was one of the few people in 58 that actually had a car. Young man, he probably was 23, 24 years old, had a job and all that. And one day I was came out on the porch like the people in my neighborhood in our building actually I often did in during the summer months, because back then most people didn't have air conditioning, so we sitting on the front. And the women always talked, and they were talking about how the police had killed Thomas in the alley. And back then, the famous thing that, or the most prevalent thing that got black people killed was back then was the shiny object. And they said he pulled a shiny object, and they killed Thomas. And he was just a really, really, really good guy.
Shiny object could have been, you know, the cop said it was a gun, but it could have been a St. Christopher medal or something. Is that what you're talking about?
It could have been something that was non-existent. There wasn't nobody in the alley but them and him.
Yeah, so it's just the excuse du jour.
Exactly. And so basically for me, on a personal level, like I could name, like you said, right now, there's probably, as we speak, there's probably dozens of people being disrespected or over-policed in the United States. And I would venture to say on any given day, there's well over 100 incidences somewhere in the country.
Yeah.
You know, and one of my incidences happened, I was on my way watching TV late at night. I was like 2 blocks from the store, but I was living in a white neighborhood. And I went to the 7-Eleven.
Real quick, Ed.
Okay, and got something and came out. The police were across the street, followed me, pulled me over. And just as it happened, I didn't have my wallet, but I was sitting right in front of my house. I said, you know, why don't you follow me in the house or whatever? He wouldn't let me. And wound up telling me that I was wanted. I'd never heard of that.
Jeez.
And
Ed, I'm sorry, we're hitting the break, but